Hello everyone and welcome back to CappingTV and our coverage of the Australian Overwatch Open Division Playoffs. That's the one I was going to try to say. I am Geo Phoenix and with me is Peronius. And buddy, we're into the lower bracket final and we've got a pretty good matchup coming ahead.
Absolutely. It is going to be Sandfraggers fresh off their defeat against X69 Gaming in the winners bracket, looking to make their second chance at getting through to the grand final, but standing in their way will be Paradigm Shift, a team that they personally sent into the losers bracket in an earlier round of the tournament. So Paradigm Shift definitely looking to get revenge here as well, and they hopefully have learned a thing or two from the last match against the Sandfraggers and are ready to come back fresh and take this team down to climb over them and get their chance to take on X69 Gaming.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a rough ride for Paradigm Shift. As you mentioned, getting taken out by the Sandfraggers rather convincingly, I guess, as much as a 3-1 can be. Then they had a bit of a rough ride through the lower bracket yesterday, having to go 3-2 against, I believe it was Big Sugoi, and then having their previous game against Bad to the Bone, which both of those going to the full 5 sets. So they have gone through a lot of games throughout this playoff bracket, but they have to make it work here against the Sandfraggers if they want to make it to the grand final and make a pretty considerable lower bracket run.
Absolutely. This finals have definitely been a crucible for all these teams. It has been a grueling day, rather a grueling weekend of tough games for all of these teams. And by this stage, I think the endurance of these players is really being pushed to its limit.
Yeah, and now we're coming into the first map. It is going to be on Busan, and we're going to be at the nice little tranquil arena. So we're probably going to be seeing a lot of the similar compositions that we've been seeing all throughout the weekend here. A lot of goats and a lot of goat-like accessories. And yeah, I'm guessing we'll be seeing. I'm guessing we're going to be seeing a lot of that.
Absolutely. Certainly, we have seen a couple of the teams in this tournament trying out those quad DPS comps designed to pick apart the more beefy 3-tank 3 support lineups or the 2-tank 3 support lineups, as we have seen some of those as well. But I don't think Busan Sanctuary is going to be one of the maps for that sort of comp. And as I say that, it looks like we do actually have one of the teams locking in that 4 DPS comp there.
Yeah, it looks like on the red side, it is going to be Paradigm Shift. And on the blue side, it's going to be the Sandfraggers. And as you mentioned, Paradigm Shift already looking to lock in that 4 DPS lineup. And they have an awful lot of range at their disposal. Going with the Pharah, the Widow, and also the Hanzo. And the Soldier himself, he has a reasonable amount of range to his kit as well.
Yeah, we have actually seen a lot more Ashe run in this composition over the weekend than the Soldier there. But Slipchip obviously must be feeling more comfortable on the Soldier, and it looks like in these first stages of the fight we are going to see some long-range poking, but that is an early frag on the Mighty Boy.
Yeah, nice start there. Autumn getting that one and giving the rest of their team the opportunity to move on to the point. This goes lineup that the Sandfraggers are running and having to be a little bit more cautious with their approach, as Lemons for me is going to be taken down by the slam from Pizza on that Wrecking Ball. And nicely done here from Paradigm Shift, really picking apart this Ghost lineup and maintaining or establishing some early control of the point.
Absolutely, and a res will come through onto Autumn as well, which means they do have all their members there, and it looks like they're actually going to try and chase down a late stagger kill there onto Rune. So Paradigm Shift setting up a very strong position on this opening round. We'll see if we're seeing some adjustments. It looks like we are actually going to see the Sandfraggers move over to a dive composition to counter this.
Yeah, they also do have another Widow to match the Widow that HMOOM has been bringing out, and they go diving in very quickly, and Hunter is going to be the first one to go down, as there's a nice dive coming out from this new composition, and they want to get even more. They're going on to the Squishy members, trying to get themselves away. Moe is going to be taken down in the backline. Meanwhile, as Lemons for me is also going to get taken down, so really nicely done here from the side of Paradigm Shift. They're making it work in multiple different areas. They're forcing away Paradigm from the point, but they haven't been able to secure it for themselves just yet. They are mines on the field, so they have to be very careful navigating around this area, and these kills are trading back and forth as here comes Attack Visor trying to really clean up some of those remaining members, and it looks like the fight will eventually be won out by Paradigm Shift, and they maintain control of this objective.
Absolutely, and we see Razorfish getting away with yet another cheeky res, getting Pizza back up, even as the Widow in Rune was more distracted taking down Autumn. And throughout this whole tournament, Razorfish has been managing to get away with these crucial reses right in the middle of team fights. So some really heads-up Mercy play, although as I say that, Rune does clip the wings of that Mercy. So this is an opening here now.
Absolutely, and with this 4 DPS lineup, they only have the single support, so that is a lot of the healing out of the way, and we can see the repercussions of that death already too have been taken out, as they are losing a lot of position around this objective, as it does get finally captured for the side of the Sandfraggers, as they are going to be cleaning up some of the remaining members of Paradigm Shift.
Absolutely, but despite that, and despite how I suppose not decisive and quick that fight ended up looking, looked almost like cleanup from start to finish, but we do have a 96% progress on the point here, which means that Paradigm Shift are in a great position. They've swapped over to the Zen Goats, and now they're just going to be looking to muscle back onto the point and win out the round.
Yeah, and all they need is just one solid fight to recapture the point and recapture this round. Here comes the Dragon Blade, goes slicing through. Already H-Boom is getting taken down, and Lemons for me just absolutely tears them apart. Wow, that was over before it even started.
Absolutely, I mean that's the Nano Blade right there, and he has just grabbed that one and sliced through the whole team. And I suppose that is the big disadvantage of these Goats-based compositions, is you are going to be very close together. That's a lot of cleave damage for the Genji, and just the fact that they weren't able to get some crucial CC on him at the start of that means that he's just able to clean up the whole team.
Yeah, and now they're coming up against quite a few ultimates in the bank, as the Mercy, not the Mercy, the Widowmaker ends up throwing that one out as the explosion comes through, takes down H-Boom, and that is 2 supports down. Xeno utilizing that Primal Rage, just bashes Pizza around, and they are just going to be in cleanup duty yet again, as it looks like the Diva is trying to get away, almost does get back to the team, actually manages to do so without even losing the mech, so nicely done there. But still, another very solid hold coming out from the Sandfraggers, and now it's in a situation where Paradigm Shift, they were almost in a situation where they need to panic a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been what should have been a nice easy retake with the Goats comp, and they have been absolutely snuffed out. Sandfraggers coming alive and getting some well-earned revenge on that one, and now we're on to the last fight.
And here comes the Dragon Blade yet again, trying to get similar results, but it's not to be, as Autumn shuts him down before he can get anything done, as the Nano Boost does go down onto Zeno. He's going to be doing as much damage as possible with that Tesla cannon. The point is still in favor of the blue side, the Sandfraggers. Here comes the mech explosion, trying to split apart the teams, as Zeno is going to be taken down, but the point got captured by the red team, and that is just going to be the round done.
Absolutely, Paradigm Shift managing to create a lot of space with that Diva Bomb. Xeno having to try and stay in to try and keep the point alive, but in the end, bullied off the point by the Brigida regardless. Point gets flipped, and they just don't have the manpower to try and take it back and get some sort of progression. So that will be an early 1-0 lead in this stage, going over in favor of Paradigm Shift.
Yeah, and now we're coming into the mech bay, a very different look and a very different approach to this this point, as we can see some of the different tech options from both of these teams, with Lemons for me going to be picking up that Mei. We've seen it before when we go over to the village on Nepal, but in a similar situation here on the mech bay with the Mei alongside the rest of the Ghost comp.
Absolutely, as long as they're looking to take the fights on the high ground here, it's very easy to wall people off. And certainly if they're able to get control of the point, there's some very tight chotes that Mei wall is going to be very difficult to get through with. That said, we haven't seen a lot of early point pressure actually been taken by Paradigm Shift. They've got control of the point, they're back on the quad DPS, and they have all the space in the world right now.
Yeah, they want to keep these fights as long at range as possible. Mighty Boy gets taken down, but Slip is going to get taken out in return. It's just snipers for days, as we've got almost every sniper in the book in favor of Paradigm Shift, and it's working out incredibly well, as H-Boom is doing so much work with the Widow, and Hunter does manage to take down Rune, and that is going to be the first point captured, or the first opportunity of the point is going to go over to Paradigm Shift yet again.
Absolutely, and they just took all the map in that engagement. They just very quickly rolled out, they took up positions, they had all the angles covered, and it was just going to be a nightmare to push into it. And sure enough, it does work out in their favour.
Yeah, and now we do have a little bit of an adaptation coming out from the Sandfraggers. Rune has switched over to the McCurry. Lemons for me back on to that Genji, but I have to see if it's going to be working out, because so far, it's not to be, as Lemons for me gets taken down rather quickly in this fight, and that causes the retreat immediately out
absolutely.
of the Sandfraggers.
Yeah, Sandfraggers are really starting to struggle here against this quad DPS comp. They need to make some faster adjustments. They've moved over to the dive, but they just haven't been able to get through. There's just so many different angles and so many high-powered, dangerous DPS that are poking them down, and all it takes is one of those blows connecting through and dropping a person, and it's all over.
Absolutely, and with those long sightlines, very hard to make your way a lot through those corridors, as we see yet again Lemons for me is getting taken out at the very start of this fight, and we're getting more kills this time into the favor of Paradigm Shift, just rolling their way through, and this is just domination from point zero from throughout this entire round.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, basically, the Sandfraggers are actually struggling to even make it into the open mech bay area. The moment any of them pokes their head up in any of the entrances, they're just getting jumped on by all these long-range DPS, but here comes the commitment.
Yeah, they put the nano boost onto the Winston to get into the backline. It works for a bit, but in return, Autumn with the missile barrage does manage to take out a couple, but Zeno is actually just on fire, does finally get taken down by Bob, but did a decent amount of work, but because of the amount of trading that went on, it is going to end up in favor of Paradigm Shift, and there's no one really to get to the point, and that should be this first map going over to Paradigm Shift.
Absolutely, and what an incredible performance from Paradigm Shift, really showing off their mechanical skill, bringing out this quad DPS comp, and just not allowing the members of the Sandfraggers to play the game they want to be playing here. So a well-deserved 1-0, and if they can continue to play like this, they are actually looking very strong to make their way into the grand finals.
Yeah, really nicely done. We've been talking about GOATs and how to deal with said composition, and well, there's always the discussion of, yeah, the quad DPS can work, but the consistency can be a little bit questionable at times, but if you can get it to work like that, and if you're able to set up the way that Paradigm Shift were able to on that mech bay, they make it look much more consistent than what it probably is.
Absolutely. They've done an incredible job of just absolutely shutting it down. Like, that mech bay belonged to them, and yeah, it was just Sandfraggers really struggling to get in there at all. And now, Sandfraggers now have an opportunity to choose where to take it, and quite sensibly, they're going to be bringing this one along to Dorado. They do not want to be meeting this sort of quad DPS team on the open sightlines of Route 66, so that is where we'll be headed next.
Yeah, that would be very dangerous, because we've seen how proficient some of these teams have been with those quad DPS, and just how, as you mentioned, high-powered they are. So Dorado is where we're going to be headed. Seen some interesting matches on Dorado. Sometimes it can get shut out a little bit, but once the momentum starts rolling, oh boy, that payload just keeps on rolling. Absolutely,
and it's going to be interesting to see what we actually see out of Paradigm Shift here. They have opted to attack first, so it's going to be interesting to see just what they bring to the table here. I just want to once again highlight just how well Razorfish has been doing on the Mercy. They've been solo healing for these quad DPS comps, and they're just consistently able to stay safe, and the only time they're really getting killed is usually either right before or right after they go for a res on one of their down teammates. So Razorfish really putting in the work as the solo healer to allow this otherwise very fragile comp to keep fighting and keep trading out.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I don't think gets mentioned as much when it comes to the quad DPS, is that, yeah, you have a lot of damage, and it does get spoken of a bit. It's like, oh yeah, you're very light on the front line, but the healing is so limited. We're used to having 2, maybe 3 supports, and having like a lot of heals and shields being thrown around so you can keep your team nice and healthy, but having just the single support, it's you're working with essentially poverty levels when it comes to healing.
Yeah, absolutely, but Razorfish is making it work. And the other thing is, like, not only is it working at very low levels of healing, but anytime Razorfish is healing, Razorfish is then not damage boosting. So that Solo Mercy primarily wants to be putting out as much extra damage as they can. So there really is not a lot of healing available, but those reses have been absolutely on point, and they've really been getting away with all sorts of things. So I think we do need to see a bit more of the punishment of that Solo Mercy play.
Absolutely, and we do have Hunter being taken out as the first victim of this map. It is going to be the quad DPS yet again coming out from Paradigm Shift. A bit of a dive-heavy lineup coming out for the Sandfraggers, but they do have a bit of an adjustment. They do have the dual healing at least, so have a little bit more in regards of that. And also have the Diva to cut out a lot of at least some of those big plays, as we do have the Wrecking Ball making its way to the back line, but a good Bionade and a good targeting down there from the rest of the Sandfraggers. Make sure that Pizza gets absolutely nothing more out of that.
Absolutely, and this is so far turning to be a very forward defensive position. That payload has barely made it anywhere on this map. It looks like the Sandfraggers not willing to even have the Paradigm Shift get rolling on this one. So they're being very aggressive with their defense, which is sort of what they need to do, and we are going to see some composition changes as a result.
Yeah, we've seen them try to dive onto that back line and realizing that it didn't really work out the way they had wanted. As you mentioned, there are some compositional switches back to the more standard beefy lineup, and they do manage to get the first kill in this fight. That is going to be Moe taken down, and now they have taken down that front line, and it looks like they will be able to take down Rune as well to really open up a lot of space for themselves and really get this payload rolling.
Absolutely, and this is what you have to worry about with teams like Paradigm Shift, because not only do they run an absolutely brutal quad DPS, but if you push them, they can go back over the goats, and they are quite good at that as well. So a lot of flexibility on this team. You're never going to quite know what they're going to come out of spawn with, and certainly they're going to be able to, especially on the offense, be able to adjust their composition a lot faster than you can as the defenders.
Yeah, that's one thing I was going to mention, just how quickly you can adjust from attack, as Rune is going to be attacking. He is slicing and he is dicing, takes down two members with that blade. They do end up losing Xeno, but it's looking all right for the side of the Sandfraggers. But as I say that, they do end up losing Rune, but they still have a decent amount of damage coming from the backside, as Lemons for me on this Ashe is doing a decent amount of work, and also Moe on the Zenyatta, and they do finally stall out that progress that was coming out from Paradigm Shift.
Absolutely, and Rune going to swap over to the Pharah there. Very hard to play Genji into the Goats comp, a lot of CC to mess you up, so sort of very understandable for that change to be made after the Blade, but so many ultimates online for the Sandfraggers. They've got Bob available to throw onto the cart. We are going to have an aggressive Autumn pops the rally.
Oh, that was a massive TNT coming out from Lemons for me, managing to hit the majority of the members, but with that armor coming through from the rally up, it is going to keep the team relatively healthy, as Bob is going to be dropped and it's going to be a big nuisance for them throughout the rest of this fight. They even have to use the Transcendence just to keep everyone alive. A good shadow gets thrown out, as Rune is going to get tagged up by that mech explosion. The nano boost did go down onto Psycho, but got D-mech, so they're not going to be able to get too much out of that. And throughout this grueling fight, it is going to be rather handily won by the side of Paradigm Shift, and they secure that first checkpoint.
Absolutely, Paradigm Shift managing to win that fight one out, but I just want to highlight over Lemons for me, who used the Bob at the start of that fight, already 66% to the next ultimate. They're really obviously getting a lot of damage in on that Ashe, and definitely is someone they need to keep their eyes on. They need to close on or deny the sight lines, because Lemons has absolutely got the potential to really tear them apart if left unchecked.
Absolutely, and with those, with the TNT and the amount of AoE dots that they can, well, the area effect that it has, any amount of damage over time that it can do, can really rack up that percentage really quickly. As you can see, already up to 95%, and almost has another Bob, as they are trying to dissuade them from this high ground here. Oh, a great Graviton, but a nice response. Transcendence keeps the rest of the team nice and healthy as they throw out the Bob, trying to dissuade this offense just a little bit more. Here comes the Mech Explosion, been thrown into the mix, but they're not able to get anything out of it, as Razorfish is going to be the first one to go down, as they are going to be able to force back this offense. As here comes the Rocket Barrage, but a shield being thrown in there by Pizza essentially puts them in a bubble, and they do finally take down that Pharah, but they're trying to re-aggress right now as the Mech Explosion gets thrown out, doesn't get anything, but they're trying to get something out of this.
Yeah, bomb placement was very close to catching a few people in that side room, so almost getting it there, and they are pushing forwards with this payload as the brawl continues on the card.
Yeah, my boy using the Valkyrie, trying to keep the team nice and healthy, but the payload has been moving throughout all of this, as Razorfish has been a permanent fixture on this card. Psycho is trying to at least force him away. Here comes the not the Transcendence, this is the rally up, as, well, there's a Transcendence, as it is used in response to the Graviton Surge, but as no one has dropped down just yet. Another bomb gets thrown out to try and help with this fight, as they're trying to hold on to this checkpoint for just that little bit longer, as Lemons for me is going to be the first one to go down. Rune is going to be the second to fall, and with the rest of the team just collapsing, this should be the second checkpoint finally picked up by Paradigm Shift.
Yeah, it's a long slog of a grind there, but good use of ultimates staggered out by them means that when the defensive ultimates, or rather when the aggressive ultimates have been thrown out by the defense, they're able to drop their sound barrier, they're able to use their Transcendence, and just space those out, keep the team healthy, avoid taking any losses, and eventually grind out that grueling second point.
Yeah, and speaking of grinding it out, they have switched their composition back to the much more durable goats for this third point. It's much more close quarters. You want to be playing that more grinding style, and they are ready to do it. As here comes the Mech Explosion, doesn't manage to get anyone out, but throughout that they did manage to take down Pizza on that front line, so, and also taking out HPM. It looks like the retreat is going to be called for the side of Paradigm Shift. There might be a little bit of an adaptation or a switch, because Pizza now is back onto the Reinhardt. We are going to be mirroring these compositions as we get into this third point with a minute and a half left to go.
Absolutely, and that first fight win is absolutely crucial, because there was a real risk there of Paradigm Shift just being able to just snowball through that third point with a huge ultimate advantage. So that early fight win, absolutely what they need to start building their own ultimates there. Oh, Grab gets eaten there as the fight breaks out.
Yeah, nicely done there. They even managed to take out, Mighty Boy has been taken out though. Here comes the Transcendence for Paradigm Shift, trying to keep the team nice and healthy, as they do manage to take down Xeno and also Psycho. So that is a lot of that front line taken care of. And now they're just trying to make their way very aggressively forward, as we do have a charging Pizza straight towards the respawn point, but he gets taken down a little bit over aggressive there, and now this is the opportunity for Xeno to really wreak havoc as a nice Earth Shatter comes through, and now it's time for the Sandfraggers to just roll their way through this offensive lineup, and this is potentially going to be the final push coming out for Paradigm Shift, and they have... Yeah, that is going to be a big problem for them. They don't have much time in the bank. 20 seconds left for Paradigm Shift just to get back to the cart and push it into overtime. They don't have the time to be playing the nice, the cautious, methodical approach to the point. They are now down to 10 seconds. They need to get at least someone there to at least force it into overtime. They are now onto the point, but now they have really exposed themselves to the elements, and now it's time for this final fight. We're into overtime. Can they make it all the way through to this final point? The grinding fight is continuing to go on. We see health bars go up, health bars go down. A shadow does come down, but they're not able to get too much just yet as the Mech Explosion comes through. Doesn't get anyone out of it, but they do finally manage to take down Rune. The Graviton comes out, doesn't really pick anyone up out of it. They're not able to get anything from it. A Transcendence from the side of Maui is going to keep the defensive side nice and alive, but this payload is starting to push as the defensive team is starting to crumble. Mighty Boy gets taken down, and Graviton does manage to help take down Xeno, and this is opening up a lot of space for Paradigm Shift. There's not too many members left in the tank for the defensive team, as they are going to get boofed away. They're not able to get onto the card to contest it, and the full push is completed by Paradigm Shift.
And you've got to be happy with that one. Paradigm Shift, as long as you can finish this map, you're in a decent spot. They did have the opportunity to finish it with a little bit of time in the bank. Pizza pushing up very aggressively because he did have the Earth Shatter, trying to catch the members of the Sandfraggers in their spawn, not let them get out there, but unfortunately he gets stunned out by Autumn and punished for his, or rather not stunned out by Autumn, sorry, he gets stunned out and punished for that one, And as a result, we do see them get pushed back to their spawn. They are managed to just barely get that one through in the end, but certainly a close game there. And now we're going to be going over to see if they can hold off the incoming offense.
Yeah, and we're talking earlier about the fact that Sandfraggers were the ones to put Paradigm Shift down into the lower bracket yesterday in the upper bracket. And it's looking like Paradigm Shift have got a bit of a grudge, and they want to fix some of those past mistakes, and they're on a very good path to do so. Already taking that first map, and it looking very good to take out this second one as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Paradigm Shift really know they had a lot to prove in this one, but at the same time, they've definitely done their homework. They've been doing their research on the Sandfraggers. I think all these teams are doing all the scouting they can between the games to try and make whatever adjustments they can. And it's starting to show off, because some of these teams definitely upsetting the previous results and showing that history can be rewritten.
Absolutely, and now it is time for the Sandfraggers to make their way onto the field. They do have Rune as a bit of a scouting duty with Rune, get a bit of an idea of what's coming at them, and they find out very quickly that it is a lot of DPS. They do have the pharmacy combo, as well as Hunter being picked on that Widowmaker, and already making an impact, as Lemons for me is going to get taken down before they can really get much progress of anything, and they are forced all the way back into spawn, as Hunter is still just firing away, picking up a lot of damage here and there.
And that was a very close call as well, because Rune actually did get the hack onto Autumn on the Pharaoh, who was stuck on the ground, but unfortunately, the rest of the team members able to provide enough support and suppressive fire to not allow anyone to actually clean up that kill on Autumn, and as a result, they have managed to hold off that first attack, and we'll see if they're able to continue to do so in the second one.
Yeah, we do have Xeno just sitting on the point, just pushing it slowly, as this defense is being forced back. They're making their way back towards the plaza, or the market, however you want to refer to it, as Rune does manage to take down Autumn. That does give a decent amount of space over to the Sandfraggers, not having to worry about that pesky sniper in those back lines, as they do manage to take down the Razorfish on the Mercy, and that is going to make it so much easier for this team to make their way through and put out a lot of damage, as the fight is very handily won by the Sandfraggers as they push their way towards this first checkpoint.
Absolutely, and I really want to highlight in there the play from the Psycho and the Diva, who the moment Autumn was denied the skies and taken out, moving forwards to camp that body and make sure that Razorfish couldn't get in with the res.
Absolutely, they do manage to get in for a contest just 30 seconds away from the point, as they throw a lot of zone controlling around that point. We can see Bob does manage to take down Pizza, but everything is looking pretty good for the side of Paradigm Shift. But as I say that, Bob he's pulling his weight, as he is managing to pick up a couple. Lemons for me doing as much as possible, but it's not going to be nearly enough, as they are going to be forced back, and they are going to have another attempt at securing this first checkpoint.
Yeah, so far we're still stuck on point A. More than half the time in the bank is gone. This first courtyard can be very dangerous, especially with all the sight lines, and Paradigm Shift absolutely playing those sight lines as well. But we do have an ongoing Widow duel here. Rune has popped out the sights, but is really getting pressured out.
Oh, Rune does get taken down. Autumn finding him out and does just end up diving straight onto him. Banana Boost does go down onto Xeno to force a lot of the tanks on the front line away, doing a lot of damage to them, just zapping them before they can get anything done. Razorfish is into the fray, trying to get maybe a cheeky res here or there, but does get taken down, and the fight going very well for the side of the Sandfraggers, as they do end up securing this first point, giving themselves some extra time.
Absolutely, and they definitely needed to really crack that one as early as they can, because they've got a full map to finish here, and there are still several dangerous points that can get stalled out. Pizza under a lot of pressure here, though, by the Sandfraggers forwards. Does manage to get away, though, so there's not going to be any early trades here, and Sandfraggers going to look to get this cart moving as Paradigm Shift set up their defense.
Yeah, and now they are starting to make their way through the second point. Here comes the Dragon Blade, a very forward positioning, but it gets taken down completely. Xeno with the Primal Rage says, "You and your silly blade are no match for me and my giant hands," and he just slaps him away, and now he's going on the offensive, taking down Razorfish, as well as Sandfraggers are just rolling their way through this second point.
Absolutely, and then it's probably going to be time for one last retake here, but it's probably not too surprising at this point. We're going to see some compositional changes. It looks like we are going to goats, so we are going to see Paradigm Shift changing things up here.
Yeah, we'll have to see if they're able to hold on to this second checkpoint. We do have the dive now going onto Rune into that backline. The rest of the team trying to help out as they do end up taking out the rest of the team as Paradigm Shift are kind of falling apart here on this defense, but they do have a lot of time to work with. A nice mech explosion gets thrown onto the point to try and help out. Does manage to get another mech for himself as they are able to stall a decent amount, try and give the rest of the team an opportunity to reinforce, but it's not looking like it might happen too often. But we do finally have Autumn and Hunter back into the fray, but the fight is going quite nicely for the side of the Sandfraggers. But here comes the Transcendence, which could very well start to turn things around. Autumn is very low, has been hit by the Binade, is not in the best of spots. There's a nice nano boost goes down onto the Winston, who is now just zapping their way through a lot of this Paradigm Shift lineup. But throughout all this, the payload has been stalled out as we are just bleeding time here for the Sandfraggers. Pizza does make his way back to the point, but is going to get taken down eventually, as Zeno is really just a monster on this front line.
Absolutely, but all said and done, considering how unlikely a defense there was, the fact that they were able to stall out as much time as they did, almost a minute off the clock there, they've got to be happy with that one. The trick here now is to just make sure that they don't get snowballed through this third point, because they're running out of reserve territory to give up.
Yeah, exactly, and they are just going to be sticking back to that goats composition. We see just how effective it can be here as a Bionade gets landed onto Razorfish, who has to be very careful getting back to the rest of the team. They do manage to take down Zeno as he was split apart from the rest of the team, as the rest of the Sandfraggers look to be playing it a little bit more cautiously, as they are definitely in retreating formation now, as Psycho ends up losing the mech, and that should be it for that push.
Absolutely, and Zeno staying on the Winston, he's got the Primal Rage. He obviously wants to see if he can get a good use out of that, because it can be a very dangerous ultimate, so not quite swapping over to the Reinhardt yet, but I think we can imagine that if they haven't capped it out after that Primal Rage, that he probably will be swapping up fairly shortly as well.
Yeah, have to make sure that they give themselves enough time to try this fight and then give themselves another shot at it, as here comes ultimates left, right and center. The explosion does manage to take down two, and that is going to be that one done and dusted. And maybe this is the opportunity to just switch over here for Zeno. He does realize that, yeah, absolutely, they do not have the time nor the space to get the use out of that Primal Rage. They just need something to stand in front of the rest of the team. They just cut the Winston shield, just doesn't really cut it when looking at these two compositions. And now here they're coming for their next push. They're making their way through.
That's a huge flank shadow by Pizza.
Oh, manages to put so many on the ground. They have essentially lost this fight before it even started. They have to make sure they can reset as quick as possible, because they have just a minute left on the clock. They have some tools to work with, but they need to be very careful about their approach.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, always check your corners, because you never know. The one time you don't check is the time that Zeno is behind you with a shatter, and that is not what you're looking for. Sorry, Pizza is behind you with a shatter.
It's usually one of the two.
One of the two, yeah.
Yeah, they have a lot of defensive ultimates for the side of Paradigm Shift, but they don't have much beyond that. They almost have a mech explosion, but there's a lot of defensive plays, or a lot of plays available for the side of the Sandfraggers, and they are just going to run all the way through. Moe actually gets taken down with Transcendence still available. That is going to be a big mistake for the team, and they have to be very careful with how they play out the rest of this timer. They have 10 seconds left. A good Graviton picks up several members as the mech explosion gets thrown out as well. It does manage to take down two, and this could be the opportunity for them, as a Graviton also, not a Graviton, as Shatter did manage to put down Pizza, but will they be able to keep this card rolling and give the rest of the team enough time to get there? The Shatter comes out, but doesn't really hit too much because of the Zai shields and also the other shields that they do have at their perusal, but they do end up losing Mighty Boy to the explosion. Zeno gets taken down from a flame strike, but they do have members on the point still moving it, as Rune has actually switched over to the Moira for this last section, as they are just scrambling on offense and both defense. They're trying to get, they are very close to the point. They need to get there to contest it for just a little bit. Here comes the Graviton. Let's keep them away from it for just a bit, as another return Graviton is going to get a lot of value, as Psycho is doing a lot of work, just standing on the point, just dishing out damage for days, and it looks like the Sandfraggers are going to be able to do it, and we are going to be going to extra innings.
That's right, and it really did not look like they were going to be able to pull that one off. The Sandfraggers in a lot of trouble at the early stages of that fight, but they get some crucial trades back, and even though it looked like, especially with the respawn advantage held by Paradigm Shift, it was an uphill battle, but they managed to win out. They managed to keep getting the kills they needed. Graviton came through at just the right time, and with that, they do get the chance to play this map out in Time Bank.
Alright, so both teams will have an extra minute to get as much done as possible. Interested to see what team is going to be first. It is going to actually be Paradigm Shift on attack first, and to be quite honest, with their first attack, they seem to get a fair bit done, whereas with the Sandfraggers' first attack, they seem to be stalled out for a fair bit.
Yeah, I mean, both these teams did have a bit of early cart stall on the defense, but Sandfraggers obviously having a bit harder of a time of it, so it's going to be interesting to see how the teams adapt here. It's really a lot of pressure on the Sandfraggers in particular because they know that there are a couple of different team compositions that could come barreling out of that door from Paradigm Shift, and they have to correctly guess which one, or they could be in a world of trouble.
Absolutely, the gates have been dropped. The goats have been unleashed from the side of Paradigm Shift. You'll have to see just how this defense is going to hold up. They only have a minute to work with, so they don't have many opportunities to get those pushes in. They are just making sure that they can keep everyone safe. They do have the dive coming through from Xeno just to disrupt a little bit of the positioning. And they do manage to do a decent amount of damage thanks to the Bionade and also the rest of the damage from afar, thanks to Lemons for me on that Ash yet again doing a lot of work.
It's a huge anti.
Oh, a big Bionade, and that is going to force so many members out of this fight. Xeno gets taken down, but they do manage to take down the Lucio, and that's a lot of the healing out of the way. And now it's down to Panic Stations, 15 seconds left. They're trying to reset, trying to at least recoup for one last push, trying to get as much done as possible with what little time they have left. 5 seconds on the counter, then it'll be into overtime. They almost take down Rune. The stun came out, but does manage to get out of there in the nick of time. But H-Boom does manage to snipe out Lemons for me. Really nicely done there, and that's a lot of the damage from this Sandfraggers lineup just taken out. And this is going to allow Paradigm Shift to push on a fair bit. They made it all the way through the market and into this courtyard. And they could even get to this first checkpoint. Here comes the rally up, trying to get the team nice and topped up as the Nano Boost does get dropped onto Xeno. They have to stick onto this point any longer off it, and it will tick down really quickly. Bob comes into the fray as the mech did get removed from Slip. As here comes the Transcendence to keep the team alive, as Xeno is going to be able to take out Autumn. Really nice kill there as the fight is going to continue on the point. Overtime is ticking as they have to remain on the point as the mech explosion comes out as a good couple of kills come in for the side of the Sandfraggers. Rune with this blade is going to start slicing through. Any position on the point has been completely eviscerated, and that is going to be the round done.
Absolutely, and that's a great place to stop the cart there. Really nice plays from the Sandfraggers there. They put the Primal onto Xeno on the Winston. He jumps in, he gets a lot of cleave damage. He builds up his Primal, a very useful tool for not only stalling if the fight starts to go badly, but really displacing members off the payload. And then, of course, they get the Bob up as well, which basically ends up being a very effective counter to that Graviton, because Bob's sitting there in the Grav, putting out a lot of damage, and it makes it very difficult for especially the somewhat low health members to actually properly clean up on that Grav due to all of that extra damage available to the defenders.
Yeah, absolutely. And now it's time for the Sandfraggers to go onto the offense. We have to see how this defense holds up, because yeah, that looks like a very gettable target, but with just a minute to work with, I feel as though that is still a rather defendable target that this Paradigm Shift does have.
Absolutely, there's all sorts of things that can go wrong, and once again, they do have to play the mind game of what exactly are they going to be seeing from Paradigm Shift on the defense. Are they going to be running the quad DPS? Are they going to be running the goats? They are on attack this time, and at least they have the ability to do some early scouting or do some composition switches should it come out, but there's still a lot of room for this to go wrong. We do have the goats defense waiting in ambush behind that building. Let's see how it unfolds.
Yeah, and they do throw out the TNT early, as Lemons for me is going to be on that Ash. And they also have the Pharmacy in the skies, and they are wanting to have a lot of damage as Peter is in a very rough spot. Well, the team is in a rough spot in essentially fish in a barrel at this stage. That shield is going to have to pull double duty as they are coming all the way around the point. They want to attack that back line as they are taking it all the way out to the Riviera as they are trying to take out anyone, as Pizza finally manages to get a good shot, takes down 2 members, but throughout all of this the payload has been moving. They managed to get back and stop it for just a bit as Lemons Me does manage to remove the Diva mech. But they do end up getting stalled out for just a bit, but Rune does get a nice kill onto the Zenyatta, which will force his defense to be a little bit more passive until they get that member back into the fight. There is a missile barrage and also the Valkyrie on deck for the side of the Sandfraggers. They are going to use the Valkyrie rather early to keep them nice and healthy and ready for this next fight. The barrage is probably going to be coming in quite soon. This defense is going to set it up right before this checkpoint that needs to be made as the Graviton does get used. The barrage does come out as they manage to take down Order, but the Order kills are going over to the side of Paradigm Shift. They just completely wipe them in the space of a few seconds as there's just poor Psycho on the point. They aren't going to be able to get that capture, and it is going to be Paradigm Shift going up 2-0 in this series.
And it was a very interesting grav being thrown out. It looked like a very long-range grav, which means there's a lot of risk of it being eaten there. But they managed to throw it into the backline, and it divides the attention of the team as they're, torn between their aggression with the rocket barrage and for peeling back to try and prevent anyone dying in that grab. The grab actually only picks up Lemons for me, so not the biggest grab in the world, but just the panic of it being there gave the opportunity needed to win out that round.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about those little interactions when it gets to this point of the competition, and we're seeing just how much one member going down can really just alter the pace of a fight and how much it can really swing things. And having that one member out of the way and allowing the rest of the team to just focus on the front of essentially this front to back fight, eventually Paradigm Shift were able to just completely roll through it. And they are looking really good. We were talking about how a multitude of things can go wrong with just a single minute to work with. And Sandfraggers, they were so close to snatching that. They have chosen Hanamura for our next map. And they have to be a little bit nervous coming to this one, because if they don't manage to pick up this map, they are out of it.
Absolutely. And yeah, things are really starting to come down to the wire. Paradigm Shift have really turned this one around, and as a result, they're putting up a very dominant performance so far. These games have been close, but they have managed to come out on top both times. And as a result of that, they have taken it to match point. They're on the verge of being able to go through and face X69 in the grand finals.
Yeah, and being able to take down the team that took you down early in the competition, knocking you into the lower bracket, that would feel very good for this Paradigm Shift lineup. They came in as, I believe, the 3rd seed, or a really highly regarded, and to be knocked down rather early in the competition would have been a bit of a blow to the morale, but being able to fight all the way back and potentially make their way to the grand final would feel incredibly good for this lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. And if that wasn't enough on the stakes as well, this, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's the top 2 from Open Div that get to go through into trials now. I believe that's the case. I could be wrong. It could be the top 4.
Sounds about right. I will have to check a lot of the stuff, but it does sound about right. But
yeah, I think with the changes that they've made to contenders, it's now the top 2 that go through into trials. So this match, a lot more on the line, as they are potentially playing for that spot in contenders trials as well.
Yeah, and that puts a lot on the line for this one series. So it's now up to the Sandfraggers to really turn this whole series around. They've looked so good for so long throughout this entire tournament, but their run could be ending a little bit shorter than they would have liked. And yeah, it's not over yet, but with how Paradigm Shift have really taken it up another notch, they have to really step up their game.
Yeah, absolutely. And we just have a bit of a break at the moment, as the looks like some of the players just getting a moment to regather themselves before we move into the next round. but we will be heading to Hanamura in a moment when the players are ready to go. And it's really not hard to fault them, given what a long weekend this has been for all these players. There's been game after game after game, and that's not even including any practice or review time they may have had after their games yesterday to try and prepare for today. So all of these players really being pushed. This has been an absolute crucible of Overwatch for this weekend, as I think I said earlier, and we are coming through to the final parts now as we get ready to start off Hanamura.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been an absolutely grueling weekend. It's been an absolute joy to bring at least some of the action to you guys watching, and hopefully enjoying it as much as we have been enjoying it, casting it. So the assembly has been, is finishing up as we are going to be getting ready for this Hanamura map. It is going to be Paradigm Shift on the attack first, and on defense, to see if Sandfraggers have something up their sleeve, as it looks like they have a few tools which might shake up some of these compositions.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see if they are indeed playing the Mei defense here on the first point, something that was vogue for a very long time, but had fallen out of style, but seems to be coming back once more. So it looks like they are going to be running the Mei Ashe on this defense, just to try and buy as much time as they can on this first point. But Hanamura being Hanamura, I believe the expectation is it probably will get through to second, and that's where the main defense will be.
Possibly. I mean, we do have Slip on the Sombra, possibly going for a scouting mission just to make sure that they are fully aware of what they're going to be coming up against. They do see what is in store for them. They make the necessary adjustments, which is actually going to be the Ashe. Well, actually, I say that.
Nope.
They just move over. Yeah, they were on the Ashe for a little bit, but they do just switch back to the traditional goats, and they are going to try and just butt their head straight through this front wall.
No, it looks like we are seeing some further composition changes. They are double debating us here, and they are moving over to... they're moving over to a Wrecking Ball Diva-based dive team with some long-range poke from Autumn and Hunter. That's an interesting development.
Interesting one, as the freeze does go down, as Rune is actually going to be the first one to get taken out of this fight, so nice start there. They do end up losing the Diva mech, but it's a small price to pay to just take someone out of this fight completely, especially someone like that Ashe, who is going to be putting out a lot of damage over the course of these fights, and not being able to tick that up, and even actually manages to even just switches over to the Tracer in response to this composition. Lemons for me does manage to finally take down the Diva, but with this long range of this Pharah and also the Hanzo, they're outputting a decent amount of damage from long range, and they're making it very hard for this defense to really get set up.
Yeah, absolutely. That early kill onto the Ashe there, creating a lot of space for Autumn to just wreak havoc in the skies without anyone to answer it. I think the swap over to the Tracer might have been more to try and get back to the point quick enough, but that's left them without any way to really deal with this Pharah in the sky.
Yeah, they are starting to pick up some tools for the defense. Rune does manage to take down the Zenyatta, and is actually also going to take down a lot of that back line, as they are just ripping them apart, just exposing that very soft underbelly of this Paradigm Shift lineup, and really making the most of it, and actually holding on for a bit, which is something that we haven't really seen here in Hanamura.
Yeah, absolutely. Half the time gone, and I think my biggest surprise from this weekend is seeing just how many top-tier Tracer players there really still are, despite Goats for so long, making Tracer a completely unviable hero. A lot of people obviously kept up the practice on this hero, because we have seen some really devastating Tracers, and Razorfish taken out by the Pulse Bomb there, and here goes H-Boom. Rune has done it again. That is another easy fight win.
That is a very easy way to hold on to your defense. Just have your Tracer go into the backline and take out the supports. Easy as you like it. So that is going to force a reset over from Paradigm Shift, as Autumn ends up taking himself out just to get back to the rest of the team, as a reset is going to be coming through. They are starting to run out of time, just a little bit over a minute, as Rune yet again is just an absolute menace right now.
Absolutely, this is definitely the change we've needed to see here from the Sandfraggers. Turns out, just put Rune on Tracer and have them carry the game is the answer to all your woes.
It's almost as if teams just forgot how to deal with the Tracer because of the prevalence of goats, as Blizzard got eaten up by Sleepkeeper, so that is going to be a big tool not available. Earthshatter comes out and knocks a couple onto the ground. They managed to take down Hunter, Pizza is also going to fall, as well as the Zenyatta, and this defense holds on very strongly, as I never really expected to see a point A defense over the course of this tournament after how efficiently a lot of the teams have been able to just roll through point A.
Yeah, absolutely. And now this is it. This is their last push, but they do have a fair few tools available. We have both of the DPS ultimates available, as well as that minefield. Rune goes down early, and with the pulse bomb as well. That's a big opening kill.
That's a big opening kill. The one who has been the thorn in their side this entire round. They are able to make their way onto the point. Here comes the minefield, as well as the Dragon Blade, or Dragon Strike, sorry, to force this defense out of position, but still there has been at least somewhat on the point as Missile Barrage comes through, does manage to take down Xeno as the front line is completely gutted, as Autumn is just going to roll this through, take out the rest of the lineup. Hunter's going to get in on the action, and they finally managed to take this first point, but it took him the entire time limit to get into overtime and take that first objective.
Absolutely, and they had to use a fair few ultimates to get it as well, so they're not going to really be able to snowball into second. Psycho was on the verge of having the Graviton available, so that is a very strong defensive ultimate here to make sure that they can't take this momentum all the way through, and they just don't have the tools. There's another devastating pulse bomb as well.
Yeah, Rune, if Rune, I believe, was in the fight in that previous point, probably would have been a different story, but because Rune went down so early and is still being a terror on this backline, Hunter trying to duel out with this Tracer, but Rune is just carrying this defense on his back with this Tracer, just tearing apart this backline and making sure that this Paradigm Shift offense just cannot just set up.
Absolutely, and I think possibly one of the big reasons that it's so difficult to deal with Rune is because the biggest answer to that sort of harassing Tracer previously was the D.Va, but the recent changes to the defense matrix mean that she has a lot less uptime to just deny, that Grav not hitting the mark there.
Yeah, putting it on that front door, expecting them to be walking straight through it. They are walking through that May wall as they do get the Transcendence and also the Mech Explosion to open up a lot of space. Psycho is going to get taken down as they do make their way onto the point. As Xeno is on the backline, a goodbye and end onto some of the members as the Transcendence gets now used by Moe to keep the rather limited durability lineup of Sandfraggers still in the fight, as Autumn is going to be taken out, and this is looking rather good for the side of the Sandfraggers. They're not able to lose, they don't lose anyone just yet, as the nice Primal Rage coming out of Xeno is going to be slapping away a lot of the members. They do manage to take down H-Boom, as they are going to be able to hold on for just a little bit longer.
Absolutely, Paradigm Shift not quite able to push the early advantage in that fight fast enough means that not only are they not getting progress on the point, but they're allowing the respawns to come through, and if you can't push that 5v6 advantage and actually start to make some headway in the team fight, you're not going to be able to get anything done. And so as a result, they do get sent back to spawn. They've got less than 2 minutes left on the clock. And things are really starting to turn around here in the favour of the Sandfraggers.
Yeah, and with a Blizzard pretty much up and available at this point, they can really shut out a push if they want to. Lens for me using the wall, trying to lock out some of that point, as the pulse bomb does go down onto Swift, but a good shielding and healing ends up coming out, but the Blizzard gets eaten up yet again. Rune ends up getting taken down as well. This is a good opportunity for Paradigm Shift to make their way towards the point. H-Boom is actually going on fire with this defense, on this offense, sorry, as the Transcendence coming out of Moe is going to get used. 2 ticks on the point have been captured, as Xeno gets taken out before they can really get onto the point, and everyone just got completely ejected, and they finally managed to capture this point B on Hanamura.
And that's just what we've seen from Paradigm Shift throughout this tournament. They do have the ability to, when things are going against them, they just absolutely switch it around and do a quick 180 to come out on top. They did it yesterday in their final game against Big Zagoi, where they just turned things around right on the brink of defeat to snatch away victory, and it looks like they may be able to do that here as well. They've been pushed to the limit, but this could be the beginning of their reverse sweep.
Yeah, absolutely. But the Sandfraggers, they're the ones who are wanting a reverse sweep at this stage.
Yes.
Yeah, all good. We're just used to talking about the Sandfraggers on the, essentially in the advantage, but right now they need to be able to capture those 2 points or they are out of this tournament. It's going to be a rough task, but if any team could do it, Sandfraggers have shown that they have the mettle to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are going to be now seeing, we're going to be seeing the offense now to see if they are able to basically deny what has just been done to them. And we are actually, by the looks of it, going to be seeing the quad DPS out.
On defense, yeah, coming out of Paradigm Shift, they do have a lot of long range and a decent amount of disruption using that Wrecking Ball. Edward, you've mentioned it before, Razorfish on this Mercy is the one to look out for and is the one that would need to be targeted or taken care of in some way, shape or form, so she cannot have as much of an impact as she's had throughout this entire series.
It looks like we're almost running mirror comps here. I think the only deviants... Oh, Mighty Boy going down very early in that one is going to really snuff out this first push. But it does look like that the members of the Sandfraggers looking to run the quad DPS of their own.
Yeah, it looks like we're seeing a mirror that we don't usually see. We're used to seeing mirror comps when it comes to the goats, but it's a bit of a delightful change to see a bit of a different kind of mirror as Psycho manages to get onto the backline and takes care of Hunter, but in response, Autumn takes down Moe and actually pulls back towards the rest of the team as both teams are trying to jockey for position, as it looks like Paradigm Shift are starting out quite nicely here with a lot of their DPS members doing a decent amount of work, but the Wrecking Balls seem to be doing a decent amount as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The Paradigm Shift, they are trading out ahead in this one, but you do have to worry about the respawn advantage that the attackers have. They can't afford to trade forever because sooner or later it is going to start to turn against them. So they need to be careful and play very cautious with this sort of defense.
Yeah, and with Pizza going down, that is a lot of that disruption on, and essentially a lot of the aggro taken away in that Wrecking Ball, as it looks like the Sandfraggers are making their way towards the point as Lemons for me is going to start capturing this point. Here comes the minefield laid out on the point as Pizza is going to try and hold on for just a little bit, as Autumn is going to get a couple of kills for himself and really thin out this lineup as they are going to make their way back towards the point and really shut out this offense.
Yeah, absolutely. Autumn is just getting away with murder in these skies. They should, in theory, be some very dangerous threats to him, but he has just been able to deny the sightlines of those long-range heroes, and then get the drop on them and ambush them later while they're trying to do something else. So we are going to see some adjustments now. Rune going over to the Brigadier, and Lemons for me swapping over to the McCree as well. Psycho's moving over there. It looks like they're going for the old double stun comp with the McCree Brigadier.
Yeah, not recognizing that they just haven't been having the same success in the mirror of the quad DPS, but again, H-Boom is going to open up with a kill onto Psycho, losing that Xayah very early on. Is going to stunt this attack just a little bit, and now they're in a bit of an awkward position where they want to play a little bit more cautiously and allow the Xayah to get back to the team. They do just essentially pull a full retreat and get all the way out of there so they can just get together for one, or at least another considerable team coordinated push.
Absolutely. They do have to worry about Autumn with the barrage, though. They've been, they don't have the D.Va to block that one out, and these early kills coming in for H-Boom. This fight is already over. That is a massacre. Someone call the police.
Oh, and gets another one as well. Gets Lemons for me on the retreat, and that is almost a full wipe as there's less than a minute to go here for the Sandfraggers. They need to get something to stick. Sure, it took a while for Paradigm Shift to manage to get anything to stick on their first attack. They managed to get there in overtime, and it looks like the Sandfraggers are going to have to repeat that feat. But will it work out for them? They have shifted up their composition yet again, but looking at the ultimates for the side of Paradigm Shift, they have a full belt at their arsenal. Hunter drops very low and actually gets taken down even with the pulse. It's a nice start there for the side of the Sandfraggers, but they lose Moe and they're not going to have the Ana available for the fight, as a good tactical advisor comes through as well with the Mercy boost to help thin out a lot of those HP bars, and there's a lot of red in this kill feed, and it looks like this defense is going to hold on. They don't even need to use all of these ultimates because they can just wait until there's an action made by the Sandfraggers and then use them in response. And with those mines there sitting at the front, Xeno is going to take a lot of damage and he's going to get completely wiped out. They did get a member onto the point, but it's not going to be nearly enough. Or they do actually stall that for just a little bit longer. Here comes the missile barrage that is helped out by the Mercy. They clean up that Wrecking Ball, and it's just this Lucio left on the point. They're trying to just dive members onto the point to keep their hopes alive, but it's not going to be enough as the Paradigm Shift team do end up taking the 3-0 and booking themselves a spot in the grand final.
Absolutely, and what a turnaround there. What did we say at the start of the match? Hanamura has fought over the second point. So what did we get as a result of that? It was all about the first point of Hanamura. Both these teams putting up an incredible defense, and in the end, Paradigm Shift proving to be just unassailable with this quad DPS comp. We saw so many adaptations come out by the Sandfraggers trying to beat it down, but they just couldn't. It was just too strong, and as a result, they will be going on to meet the final boss of Open Division, X69 Gaming.
Yeah, it's going to be a good series, I am sure of that. It's going to be exciting to watch these two Titans go up against each other. They haven't versed each other yet in this playoff bracket. We were mentioning it throughout it, that Paradigm Shift were dropped much earlier in the competition down by the Sandfraggers. Managing to get revenge here. They haven't versed X69, and I'm very interested to see how these styles match up against each other, because X69 very competent with the GOAT's composition, and they've been able to take down a lot of these teams that have been very much favoring that quad DPS lineup. So another challenger approaches, I guess.
Absolutely, and as it turns out, just checking the notes before, it looks like these teams did actually meet during the qualifiers, so they are going to be well aware of just how strong X69 Gaming can be, and they're going to be looking to get revenge and try and once again wipe the record clean and secure the win to take that grand final away.
Yeah, that is going to be a bit of an effort. It is going to be a best of 7, but because X69 did make it to the grand final from the upper bracket, they will start with a 1-0 map score, but we will be starting that at 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So we are going to take a break while we wait for that timer to come up, so everyone can go grab themselves some water, some food, have a bit of a stretch, and get ready for this grand final, which will be coming up between X69 Gaming and Paradigm Shift. Don't go too far, we'll be back in a bit.